are there other things that he did that could have offended the people to sort of lower his popularity?
Well, yeah, I mean, he banned weapons from the city. That was one. And so basically, during his dukedom, there's this other faction that forms that wants to overthrow him. This faction actually is forms outside of Florence and is headed for quite a bit by Ippolito de Medici, who, I guess we want to call him the antagonist right now. Obviously, the story is more complicated than that. It's not, hero and antagonist. And that's why the story is so beautiful in a way, because it shows characters that are so human in their flaws. They were all right and they were all wrong. And Ippolito, obviously, as a kid, he is educated to become what Alessandro is today, the Duke. Well, or not the Duke, because they didn't know Florence would be a dukedom, but the leader of Florence. And now he sees his place taken by his cousin. He's not happy. So there's this faction in Rome that basically keeps on lobbying to overthrow him. He also goes through quite a few attempts on his life. So yeah, it was a very tricky time, I guess, for him. Another account says that he used to constantly walk around with a coat of iron because he was so scared of being murdered, which is so sad.
Absolutely, absolutely sad.
You're having to live like that.
It's complex. It's a complex situation, no? Okay, now, I wouldn't know how long he stayed in power as the Duke of Florence. And apart from that, is there anything that we can actually trace to him as his main achievement as the Duke of the land?
Well, there are some paintings he commissioned, some statues he commissioned. Don't ask me the names and titles now because I can't remember.
I
I've
know.
asked, I have to go back.
Coupled with the fact that the story was deliberately not told, of course, many things would have been destroyed. If it is destroyed, meaning it is not evident there, no? You
Yeah,
can't see
actually,
it.
there's this one Medici, God, what you call it, stemma, coat of arms, how you call it?
Emblem, something.
Yes, that is outside of the Ognissanti church in Florence. And that is probably the one work that bears his name. And, in fact, underneath you can see, basically his name, Alessandro, Duke of Florence. That's the only one I found that actually bears his name. Then obviously, we have Fortezza da Basso, which was built under his rule. A very interesting fact about Fortezza da Basso is that normally fortresses were built facing outside the city. This fortress faces the city. And this really tells us something about, where he thought that danger would come from.
Right. It is an interesting story to really dig out. It is an interesting story to read. I really look forward to the conclusion of the story at the end of the day, by the time you would have finished it, no? Anyway, of course, I asked this a few questions so that we can look at the human being behind this story, because it's not an invention. It's a human being like every other human being, and it has its so ups and downs. And leaders, like we know, of course, they are not angels, They are human beings, they are people. And we need to look at the people in there to be able to understand the motive behind some of the things that they have done. And the thing I think that we are trying to, why I think it is important to talk about it is that they decide to erase it, that he wasn't there, no? Because I think at a certain point, the Europeans try to paint an image of themselves, who they think they are. So anything that doesn't correspond to that image, just like, for example, when Hitler was trying to create his so pure race, no? Of course, many people have to be destroyed. You have to kill millions of people in order to succeed in that agenda, because not everybody have blue eye. So meaning even the German that are not blue eye also need to die. But this is very dangerous, because the society like we have known is always made up of different people. And I think the European historians need to do justice to the story by letting the world know that they are not the origin of human history. Of course, this is evident in every place, no? So if there is a part where somebody have helped you to arrive at the point, say it. That doesn't take away the glory that you have. It doesn't take away the achievement that you have. But don't deny other things that are around you, because if you say that nothing else exists except you, then how do you justify how you even get to where you are today? Did you find evidence of other story relating to, no, in the like of Alessandro, maybe in other parts of Italy or in other parts of Europe, that we can sort of say, okay, maybe it looks similar?
Yeah, what I wanted to add to that is Italy, especially, really needs a reality check, because even just because of our position, I keep on saying Italy has had such a privileged position because it was the midst of encounters. Always, it had always been that, and from when we can remember, people came here and merged, and Italians today, just looking at us, looking at how we look, there is such an incredible beauty in the differences that we all carry. Let's take, a trip from the southernest point of Italy to, the very north. You find this incredible range of features. And that now is probably because of the history we have had. When you go to Scandinavia, obviously most people look one way. In Italy, we have this stereotype of the short Italian with, darker features. But in reality, in Italy, we have everything. And that is just testament to the history that we've had. Another thing that I want to add is taking a look at the history of Italian migration in the early 1900s to America, and taking a look to how Italians were considered there. I mean, we were called the N-word, really. And that really should make us think about where we come from and what's part of our culture and identity. Another thing that I want to add is that the only place in Italy where someone has ever asked me, "Are you from here?" was Sicily. The guy
about that, I love that story.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh my, yeah, you look so much like, the girls from here." And the thing is, he's right. And maybe we should ask ourselves why. I mean, again, let's look at our history. To answer your question, yes, there are so many Afro-European figures that aren't really talked about. Starting from, Settimio Severo, who was a Roman emperor, and just doing some research, and I'm thinking now, I can't remember his name. I was looking at it the other day. He was a French composer who was of African descent. What I want to encourage people to do is, when you go to a museum, start paying attention, pay more attention to what you see around you, and you will start noticing things that you didn't notice before. And also, if you have nothing to do one day, spend some time doing some research. You'll find these personalities that had African origins that we never really talk about, and there are quite a few.
Thank you very much for that. It is important. I think that is also the value of the story that you are telling, you know.
Yeah, I'm just
That
really bad with names, you know. So now I'm like, let me. What was that guy's name? But you know, there are quite a few.